Easter is different this year. If we were living in ordinary times, our celebrations this week would be communal, festive, and colourful. We'd together be singing rousing songs. We'd shout bold affirmations of faith. We'd share food together and laughter and joy. It is especially hard this year as the joy of Easter is uncontainable. It surely overflows to all the world in practical demonstrations of hope and love and joy. We would have had ways of inviting others to experience and taste the love of God for themselves in Pennycook in this 2020. This year, however, we have to think about celebrating in a more contained way. The continuing uncertainty, sorrow and shock we feel in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic will, however, stay with us. It will infuse our worship experience and raise awkward questions. What does it mean, for example, after all, to celebrate resurrection when people near and far are dying by the hundreds daily? To insist that the tomb is empty when mortuaries are at capacity and mourners can't gather to bury their dead. In the midst of these difficult times, I want us to take a few moments to focus on 5 of the lines of the story from John's Gospel. While it was still dark. In John's version of the story, Mary Magdalene discovers the empty tomb before sunrise, while it is still dark. The Gospel tells us that the disciples stumbled around in the half-light on the 3rd day after Jesus' crucifixion, running here and there in their confusion. Were those really angels sitting in the unlit tomb? Were those Jesus' grave clothes? That stranger lingering outside had an oddly familiar voice. Was he a gardener, or who was he? Early in the morning, while it was still early, while it was still dark. That's where Easter begins. Perhaps that is where we feel ourselves to be at present, in the dark about so many things, the future, our church, our planet. And yet it is from the dark that resurrection takes root. It is deep from within the soil that the hope expressed by the Easter daffodils is born, helping them to finally burst forth and to stand up proudly, whatever the conditions. He saw and believed, for as yet they did not understand. John's Gospel tells us that the beloved disciple entered the tomb after Peter, saw Jesus' linen wrappings lying in the place where a body should have been, and believed without understanding. The text as it is honours the gap between faith and understanding. I believe, but I don't yet fully understand. I believe in the resurrection, but I don't understand death's ongoing cruelty. I believe that Jesus reigns, but I don't understand the timing and nature of his kingdom. I believe that all things will be well, but I don't understand why they're not all well now. St. Anselm of Canterbury's motto for the Christian life was, faith seeking understanding. This invites me to begin right where I am. What have I experienced of Jesus so far? Can I hang on to the faith that is possible in light of my experience, incomplete though it is? Why are you weeping? Firstly, it is striking that Mary Magdalene sees Jesus because she stays put in the place where her pain is. She stands and weeps, giving vent to her grief, desolation, hopelessness, and agony of her circumstances. Peter and the beloved disciple leave when they see the empty tomb, but Mary stays, lingers, bewildered and bereft. She refuses to abandon what is real, even when what is real is unbearable. Second, the question suggests that God cares about our sorrow. Mary, why are you weeping? What is it that you have lost? What are you seeking? What has caused you to linger at the grave? What's breaking your heart? Perhaps we'd be hard-pressed to find a better question for the time and place we find ourselves this Easter. Why are you weeping? Are you weeping in fear that you or someone you love might contract COVID-19? Are you weeping for someone who has died of the virus? Are you sad because you've lost your job? Are you grieving because the world has changed and your place in it feels newly uncertain and shaky? Are you sad because you miss the weekly comforts of church? Are you depressed because you feel alone? Are you weeping for your children or grandchildren who must inherit a world so filled with pain? Why are you weeping? It is from her place of grief that Mary encounters the risen Lord. Do not hold on to me. It's one of the hardest things about this COVID-19. We've done elbow bumps, made the peace in British Sign Language, said namaste to friends, but we are still painfully aware of the disembodying of love at this time with many people. Social distancing. How good are you at it? My wife was telling me just this afternoon I didn't do very well with somebody. Jesus says to Mary, don't hold on to me. This, to me, sounds difficult to understand. We don't quite know what Jesus is on about. But maybe it was a way of saying, do not cling to the way things used to be. Loosen your grip on the past. Stop expecting life to be what it was before the cross and the grave. For I am doing a new thing in the world. I am doing something new in you. Don't cling. Don't hold on. Grow. When the worst of our current pandemic is over, we, the Church, will be strongly tempted to hold on in nostalgia and lethargy, to pretend that nothing has changed, to cling to our old, most familiar practices, and avoid asking hard, creative questions about our place and our relevance in a post-COVID world. We will be tempted to press reset and pretend this awful period never existed, and to try and carry on like before. Can we hear Jesus' painful but necessary words as words of wisdom spoken in love? Do not hold on to me. Allow new life, risky and uncertain though it is, to spring forth. I have seen the Lord. The Easter story begins with tears and ends with proclamation. Having encountered Jesus, Mary runs to tell her friends the news. She doesn't hesitate to bear witness to what she's seen and heard, even though she does so in the context of anxiety, exhaustion, and disbelief. The world still needs to hear the Easter story, especially now as death breathes down our necks, the future feels precarious, and all our worst fears run wild. The grave is empty, the sorrow is not forever, and the same Jesus who conquered death is still here, with us and among us. The love of Jesus defeated all the powers that were ranged against him. And as Christians, we believe that the resurrection of Jesus offers hope to the world. We may have a more constrained celebration this year, but please try and celebrate. What could you do where you are that is joyous and together? We had a discussion as a family, and I'm trying to persuade my teenage daughter to lead us in a family dance. Yes, I know we'll look ridiculous, well, my wife and I will, but we need something to express the joy of Easter that can offer life, whatever our age or circumstances. We're going to watch now one dance that reminds us that the good news of Jesus and the love that he brings crosses boundaries and brings joy in our life together. So whatever your dance looks like or doesn't, I hope that you send me a copy of it. I hope it's funny, it's expressive, you do it together.